Hello and welcome to our podcast. On this podcast we have me, Ben Pooley. To my left we have Mark Fliekar. And to his left we have Simon Kromer. This podcast is going to be predominantly about teaching. It's going to cover many facets of teaching, a lot of criticism about the teacher training, about the current teaching system, some of our own experiences, and at the end we're going to have feedback for the course. To begin with, we will start with criticism on the teacher training. We are all currently in this teacher training system. We are students at the University of Freiburg in our final year of our bachelor, and we just have a lot of criticism on the current system. Would any of you guys like to start with the point of criticism?
Yeah, I can start. So I've got a lot to talk about, honestly. So first of all, the problem I have is that we almost have no practical experience teaching whatsoever in our bachelors. I think that's the most important part of my criticism. We have, after the first semester, we have 3 weeks of an internship, basically, where we have to teach 2 hours in 3 weeks, which is
I think it was
nothing.
We can teach. I think we had to do maybe one small lesson, but we didn't even have to do that lesson.
Yeah, I think we were supposed to kind of nudge in that direction, but it wasn't required. Yes.
Right.
And
some people didn't teach a single lesson.
Some people didn't teach a single lesson at all. And
Corona, it was even worse.
yeah. And I also understand that to some point, because after the first semester you have no real knowledge about your subject at all, not more than you had when you did your own A-levels. So how are you supposed to teach an A-level class if 1 year ago you were in that same class and did the same stuff?
Maybe you didn't do that well.
Yeah, maybe you
didn't
didn't even do that well. Yeah. And you also have no teaching training at all.
Yeah,
so I knew nothing about teaching. We had one seminar about Bildungswissenschaften.
The worst course in the entire bachelor, in my opinion.
It was just theories, and I didn't really learn anything practical at all.
Yeah, and I think it's so crazy that a course about good teaching can be taught in the worst possible way imaginable. I can't believe that he did it in a way that everybody I have talked to agreed that it was taught incredibly badly.
Why would you say that? So what are the reasons why you think it is so bad?
Okay, I think one of my main criticisms is that it was incredibly abstract. It was talking about something that we all know, the process of teaching, but it was writing about things that had no real Bezug to teaching, in my opinion, and I really struggled with that. I thought it seemed incredibly boring to me, and I think one aspect of that as well was that it was an online course. That we would sit in our rooms looking at a boring teacher talking.
Very monotone also.
Very monotone.
I felt like these concepts were nice in theory, but I've never seen it in practice. It was just not practical sometimes.
Yeah.
That would be nice, but you can't do that.
Yeah.
Most of the time you don't have the time as a teacher, or you have too big classes to really apply any of these things. And some other stuff where he was talking 2 hours about how the memory, how the brain stores memory and how memory works. I mean,
I'm not even sure if I agreed on how they depict the theory of how memory works. As biology students, I'm not really sure if I feel like that's how it works. They always show these different regions, but isn't the whole brain always involved? We don't have to get into that.
Yeah.
But just
a lot of stuff was pretty simplified, I feel like, and not really that. I don't know. It seemed like pseudoscience to me a bit.
not that helpful.
I also think a lot of stuff was overcomplicated.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of this mixture of the simplification and the overcomplication that, I don't know, you would have a very simple process learning.
But
you read something and then it goes into your brain, and you would have to read 40 pages about it.
Yeah, formulated in such a way that you barely understand it, and it doesn't help your understanding at all.
Absolutely. I hate this about
scientific
scientific work. Oftentimes the aim isn't to make people understand. The aim is to
Right.
write as eloquently as possible, especially in like English.
But that's very interesting because I had an academic writing class, and teacher there, or the professor, he told us that there's a little bit of a shift, or at least there are some people now that want to make it more simple to understand.
Good.
So he taught us to make it more simple, and we had like 5 sentences to explain one thing, and he said like cut this out, this is one sentence. You don't need all of this. It's so much easier, this concept that you're trying to say, to convey. So he made us reduce and simplify a lot.
Yeah. But I think that's not the standard across.
Yeah, it's still minority probably. Yeah, I'd like it to be like that.
Yeah, I really do feel like in our current teaching apprenticeship that we have at university, there is a huge lacking of like internships in school. I feel like this system exists, like the parallel system of learning the academia behind it and practicing it at the same time. And I think it's perfect for teaching because you so need the practice as a teacher, and you need to apply the knowledge that you learn. And we have so little application of the knowledge that we learn at university, and it's...
Well, for me there's always like one problem with this, is that with our profession, if there were like 100 of us, students in school, and then he has to do a lesson, and he has to do a lesson, is that not going to reduce the overall quality of the education that kids receive? Because they can't retake that lesson, there's not enough time. So if you do a bad lesson and then 2 weeks later another student does a bad lesson, like, aren't they going to be worse? Isn't it going to be worse for the kids?
I think that's a good point to make. I'm gonna be honest with you here, but I mean, don't we do the same thing but just years later with the referendariat?
Very good point.
I mean,
you would hope that we are better prepared by then. But
yeah, but I mean, with the current education subjects or courses that we had so far, I'm not really that, I don't know, hopeful that I will be well prepared when I get into the referendariat. I think most of the stuff you learn about teaching, you have to learn while doing it.
Yeah.
And doing it after you already studied for 5 years, and then your whole existence depends on doing it correctly and the way your mentor wants you to. I think that's hard. I think that's counterproductive. I mean,
it would also show yourself like very quickly if you are even qualified, or if that's even a good idea to go into teaching. Like you say, you do these 3 or 4 or 5 years of studying, and then you get your first classes, and then you realize, well, I can't explain anything. I'm not good at this. I can't speak in front of the class. I can't explain very well. I can't make them motivated. So then it's already too late. Like with our dual bachelors, we can't just that easily do something else. At least in biology, you can't just do a Master of Science.
Yeah.
You have to take other courses. I think in English it's similar.
I've actually looked at a stat for exactly this, and I found out that about 1/3 of all teaching trainees, so teachers in their first few years, quit in the first 5 years of their career as a teacher and don't come back.
Ridiculous.
A third.
That's ridiculous.
But it was in Baden-Württemberg, so it was not whole of Germany, but only in Baden-Württemberg. Wow. I don't know how it is in the other states. I'm not sure, but I think it would be quite comparable.
Yeah.
And additionally to that, 15% of the guys who do the referendariat also stop doing that. They also quit that. 15.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive is one word there.
I have another view on what you said. So you said that if we have students in the classroom learning how to teach, it would reduce the quality of teaching for the kids in school. I think you could actually implement students in the school in a certain way where you actually upgrade their teaching. For example, in the beginning, there's no need to have future teachers teach an entire class from the get-go. You could slowly lead them there. They could start by watching like 5 lessons, then they could just walk around and help the kids.
Like an auxiliary teacher.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. Because the classes are too big anyway, so
they would just help in the beginning, and then they could take over small parts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be incredibly helpful and very doable, and probably also benefit the students. Because that's one of the big criticisms if we want to go on to the next point of the current school system, is that the classes are huge.
No, but I would actually try to stay on the other point. I want to add on that a bit.
Okay, good.
Because I think what would also be important would be kind of like a mentorship program, similar of like all of the trades have it, where you have like the guy from university who now has to go 6 weeks to a school in a new system, something like that, and he has to be like kind of an auxiliary teacher, and the real teacher kind of shows him the ropes. How do I prepare a lesson? How do I do that? How are you supposed to do that? And you can kind of ease into giving the student more responsibility, and that's the way he learns how to do it. And
it kind of ties to our next point a little bit. The teachers are already overworked, and then you would have to take out time to train all these students, you know, like to help them prepare a lesson. Like that would be another like 5 to 10 hours a week that it would probably do that. So where's the time coming from that? They would need more teachers again.
That's a pretty good point. Yeah.
So I would definitely agree. It sounds amazing, but is it realistic yet that they already have so much on their plate?
Yeah, I've looked it up, and if you have full hours, the normal teacher works 46 to 48 hours, and a week. Yeah.
And that's probably like an average. I
That's
always feel that in the beginning you have to work so much more than when you have some lessons prepared.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
that's the reason many people quit actually.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning you have to do every lesson, every grade, every year. You have to prepare everything
yeah.
at least once, and then you maybe revise it, but you can just pick it out from your folder and reuse it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
So
think
in the beginning you will have to work a lot.
I think it's important to see that it's the average. I mean,
Yes.
you've got the 25-year-old teachers who will work 60 hours a week, and then you've got the 60-year-old guy early before his retirement,
Works
not really
30.
caring,
Yeah.
working 30
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
and yeah,
So maybe for those teachers, don't know how many of them there are, then it would actually be beneficial for the students to have the young, motivated teachers in training. Maybe they can prepare a good lesson, you know.
yeah, but maybe
I've seen old teachers where I would think even in school that I would do a better lesson on that
Yeah.
topic.
Oh yeah.
Definitely like that. Yeah, for sure. Like as a student, you kind of know what students want, you know. So in school, I felt like I think he would have needed to explain that a little bit more. He would have like given us more time for that, you know. I hope I don't lose that perspective through university.
yeah,
Like that's one point I feel sometimes especially in subjects like math or physics, you get like overtrained. Like you know too much, you know it too well that you lose your ability to recognize problems from beginners.
Yes.
I felt in math that was extreme. Like I just did one semester, but already what I learned there, it changed my thinking about math completely.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like if I were gonna do this for 5 years or even longer, because let's be honest, like 3 years for math that's not gonna work for most people. So I felt like if I do this for 5 or 6 years, I will have lost my ability to understand beginner problems. Like how can this even be difficult for anybody?
Yeah.
Like it's so easy, so clear after all this time.
I mean, I'm the perfect example for that kind of, especially if we're talking about English, because English is my native language. I don't have any problems with like forming a sentence that is grammatically correct, and that is going to be a real disadvantage when it comes to teaching, because I cannot really understand like the learning process of how to connect the different dots, because in my head it just happens.
Right, sure.
So I really need to work on that later. Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same thing, but I'm also the type that just does it correctly automatically because I've heard and spoken so much English, but I still couldn't really explain all the concepts like in the right
but
use the right words to describe it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like to explain it correctly, like the grammatical concepts. I just do it right on accident.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really a big problem, and actually about that point I feel like we didn't receive enough training yet.
What point exactly?
grammar.
Like to teach and understand grammar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was like one course structures, but it was like 2 or 3 ECTS points.
We also have a
Structure.
foundation course.
Yeah, like grammar and
Foundation course,
writing, and
grammar,
maybe
yeah,
translation. I think translation helped me a lot in that part.
Translation helped me, what you said, to understand problems from beginners. I feel like, because it helped me to understand like what could be difficult for Germans to understand this sentence or how to translate it in their head. Do you actually still do it? Like, you probably don't do it, but do you still like translate German in your head, or do you just accept the English as it is and just process it and then say something in English?
I think it depends. If I just hear something in English while I'm myself speaking German or while I'm around German-speaking people, then I will probably translate it in German.
Okay.
But when I'm sitting here and talking in English, I don't really think about German at
You
all.
wouldn't translate it back again.
No.
I think that that usually happens if you speak it long enough and well enough.
Yeah. I've wanted to add on another point that you
Sure.
brought up. You said that in maths especially, you are very overqualified for your teacher position.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a very critical part of why I think the current teacher training simply doesn't work, because in some aspects you're so overqualified for school. For example, subject knowledge, physics, math, it basically does not have anything to do with what you teach in school at all, especially in math.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally. Like but it's also kind of sad. Like this one semester, I'm just, maybe it's also personality type, but that way of thinking about math, like just the abstract logic behind it, it really appealed to me. Like I didn't quit because I didn't understand anything. It was just too much work. Like biology and math together was too much work. So I really liked it, and I kind of missed it in math. It was what happens so much in school, that you get, this is how you do it, you have to do it, and now practice. But I never really understood why I'm allowed to do it, or why I have to do it that way. You know?
Yeah.
Like it was like, here's the formula, and this is how you solve this problem, now practice it. But it wasn't like, well, how did this formula, how did they think of that, and what's the reason that you can do it like that?
But to play devil's advocate here, I think in biology, it can actually be very helpful to have a lot of knowledge. So for me personally, I would like to have more knowledge than I have right now. Because like certain things like photosynthesis can be incredibly complex if you don't fully understand it. But once you fully understand it, it's kind of simple, and you can break down little bits much easier for the students to understand.
I would argue that none of us fully understands it.
Absolutely.
No,
I mean, you can always go deeper, and I feel like, do you notice like level scheme of, there's biology, but actually it's just chemistry, and actually it's just physics, but actually it's just math. Physics is actually just math.
Yeah, okay.
Just applied to the real world. So whenever we learn concepts in biology, especially in school, you don't actually understand it.
No.
Especially
it's very simplified. Always.
It tells you the process, but why do these particles move in that way? You know, then you need chemistry. But why do these molecules go together like that? Then you would need physics.
Yeah.
And you know, why do the particles behave in that way? Then you would need like particle physics, and that's just math.
Yeah, but having to understand all that, I think that's too much.
Yeah.
I think
we don't even do that in university, right? So.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. I think it's very important to know more about the subject than you teach the kids. I think that's important in order to answer questions that go beyond the current scope of what you have to teach, but simply because the kids are passionate. I've seen that happen a lot of times where the kids are really passionate about a topic and want to know more.
And then our skill would be like, I don't know if you can say it in English, but didactic reduction. Like to break down your superior knowledge so they can understand it. Right? That would be our skill then.
And also what Hochburg himself brought up in one of the courses, that it kind of is one of the important things that give you authority. Because you know more than them, you have the authority on the subject.
Right.
And I think that's also an important point, but in English, for example, I don't really see that, because as you said before, we're not really focusing on how speech works and how it really can be passed on and what kind of parts in our brain use speech. We're really just reading literature, doing a bit of linguistic analysis. I think
the English studies for teaching is really flawed. Like more flawed than biology even in
Yeah,
Yeah, I
very
think-
much.
I think biology course, especially in Freiburg, has like quite a high status actually. I think it's quite
Yeah.
good.
It's not training us to be teachers, but
No,
it's
but
giving us the
general-
information that we need to
Yeah.
be teachers.
Yeah.
Whereas the English course, some of it is just pure a waste of time,
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest.
which is ridiculous.
If you start studying English, you are probably already very interested in English culture. So I felt like I learned basically nothing in the culture classes.
I learned something.
I had a very good culture class. I think
Yeah,
the one
I've
was
learned very
nice.
much actually.
Mm.
And one problem is that you can always like choose. So my favorite culture would be like American English, and I would always choose the American class. So I don't really know that much about British culture. But you also
Yeah.
have to teach both in school. You know?
Yeah, and Australian and Indian.
Yeah, like that apparently has been added.
Um,
I've never heard about that in school. So
I
Yeah.
truly don't see why literature is placed at such a high pedestal in the English studies to become a teacher. I don't understand why we need to be
Yeah.
good at writing literary
Yeah.
reviews.
Because we're not studying English to become a teacher. We're studying
Yeah.
English
That's the
currently,
problem.
and
This
that's
is
the
the
problem.
problem.
It's not
Yes.
catered
Problem,
towards
yeah.
teachers.
Yes.
I mean, I don't like paying for university and then feeling like it's a waste of time. That's something that
Yeah.
has
yeah.
almost never happened in biology. I go in the lectures, they're complex, they're hard. I don't particularly enjoy going there, but it's interesting, and I feel like
Yeah.
I'm going there because someone wants me to know something. But when I go to something like, I don't want to call it out right now, but
You can say the class.
yeah, Survey of English Literature, for example, the lecture. I mean, when I had it,
Okay.
the lecture, we were there, and she read 5 pages of the material we were supposed to read at home for 15 to 20
Mm.
minutes. I'm sitting there 15 minutes listening to something that I already read at home. What am I doing with my time? Why am I paying for this? I have to go to... I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, even if this was interesting right now, it still wouldn't matter at all for my future teaching career. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not great, because that feels frustrating.
Yeah, I'm going to add on this. I think one of the reasons why classes in our studies can seem incredibly non-useful is because they are taught in a bad way. I think so many university classes are taught badly. It's appalling. You know, the university is supposed to be the highest form of Bildung.
Yeah.
and Oftentimes, it's just ridiculous.
They do it so much worse
I mean,
than
it's,
what they teach us how we should do it.
it's very dependent, but on like a
But,
professor.
I mean, a lecture
But yeah,
is
the
basic.
lecture's
It's
so
basically
bad.
it's basically the one thing they tell us over and over and over and over again. Is you should never ever do this to teach anybody
Yeah.
anything. Don't do a lecture for 1.5 hours with like no break or like a 5-minute break. But what do you do? What did they do? I gotta leave earlier. Let's just continue. Let's do 1 hour 20 minutes. I'll just stay there and here's my PowerPoint, which I uploaded, and then they just tell you everything. That's so. I don't really understand that, and that's even more frustrating. You pay for that, and now you get a worse type of education than school, kind of. You were so involved and always had to do something. There you just sit there, or you don't sit
You
there.
don't go, which
Or-
most people do, right? Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not saying most, but a lot.
a lot.
What?
Yeah.
or you skip like 1 or 2 classes because you got something else to do.
Yeah. I mean, I've skipped a lot of English classes to focus on biology.
I mean, that's so funny in university that you skip a class so you can study. like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also because some exams are just... I mean, we can go back to the Bildungswissenschaften.
Yes.
I mean,
wasn't that thing like 5 ECTS?
I don't...
I think
It was a
bigger than
lot.
ECTS.
It was a lot of ECTS. And I basically did not study for it. I studied for it like one day.
Yeah.
Then I opened it, and then we saw that the online exam was an exam from last year, which we already did as practice
did
and
like
had
10 minutes.
marked.
Yeah, we had
And-
full points without knowing anything.
Yeah. I mean, and that just can't happen. I mean, if the university shows me something like this, it's appalling. I think, why am I doing this? Why am I here? What is this waste of time? Why do they want me to do this? And
Yeah.
don't even put in the effort to do a new exam for the people. And that's the people
yeah.
that are supposed to teach me how to be a great teacher.
I
and-
mean, the exams is like the next point in this discussion, right? Like that the teaching is terrible. You have this lecture system, which it doesn't do much, especially in biology. It's mostly only lectures, and then you have one big fat exam after 3 months where you have to like
Apply it.
puke out everything.
Yeah.
It's not even apply, I think. It's like testing random bits of knowledge. Sometimes you have to
Exactly.
think about it, okay?
Mm.
But it's one big exam after 3 months, and it gives you this huge anxiety attack. And sometimes there's a redo, sometimes there's not. And you did all of this just for one exam in the end, and you're happy it's over, and you forget about it because you're so stressed that you finally made it.
And you also have to learn for the next exam,
Oh, yeah.
obviously,
Yeah,
because
it's, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of wrong, you know. So that's what that's why I would say most students study before the exam for the exam, not because
Yes.
they actually want to know it forever. You know,
Mm-hmm. This is a big point.
that's
Yeah.
a big point for me. And
Yeah.
I hate it, but I also feel that I have so much going on or to do that I don't really. It just feels more worth to like learn everything for the exam
Mhm.
because that's all that matters in the end.
But do you guys study to become teachers, or do you guys study because you're interested in your subjects?
I want to be the second thing, but I have to pass the exams to become teacher in
Yeah,
first place.
because I'm very much the first thing. I mean, I don't really care about English that much. I think it's
Yeah,
great to
yeah,
teach.
yeah,
I think you
sure.
can talk a lot about culture and do a lot about social commentary and stuff, where you can really shape the ideologies of the people you teach. And I think that's nice because you're not. I'm not talking about some controlling stuff, but just nudge them in the right direction.
Yeah, but what
Teach
is
them
right,
critical
you know?
think. Yeah, we could talk about that now, but let's leave
Yeah.
that for later maybe. But I don't know. I don't really see it.
No, for English especially, like
Yeah.
I don't really care about most of the things, to be honest. Especially literature, I'm not that interested. Also, all these texts from 1700 and 1800, like that's nice. That's amazing that they could write it at that time, but I'm not just that interested. So I'm doing for the credits, but that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But it's also, to me, my passion obviously is biology, and
Yeah.
it's even worse. Or yeah, it makes me sad that I study for the exams, but I also feel like it's the right thing to do if you wanna continue with your studies. I don't know. It's just always in your mind, the exam at the end, you know.
Yeah.
I agree. I've got two things to say. So, first of all, I think that in biology, old exams are put to much better use than in English. In biology, I feel like old exams oftentimes lead to the students practicing what they are supposed to do in the exam, and then in the exam the question is slightly different, but they've practiced it a lot, so they are well prepared. Whereas in English it's oftentimes the exact same questions, if the old exams exist. And you were talking basically about extrinsic motivation fueling us through our studies. Like, there's not a lot of intrinsic motivation going on. I think this is also really applicable to the school system. Really applicable, because basically it's like we have like 15 years of this. In school, all we ever studied for was the exam. Most of us never really studied because they were interested.
Yeah, no.
And this has probably
Even-
corrupted our brains and like trained
Yeah.
us to just have that mindset.
It probably happened like even less in school. That really students sit down at home and I want to know more about the subject. No, they want to know more about the playground. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know really anybody that said to me, "Damn, that was so interesting. I think I want to learn more about it at home. I think I'll Google something and look something up." You don't even get the tool really to where do you look up more information
Yeah.
if you're interested.
I think a good teacher is really defined by his ability to create intrinsic motivation, because it's so helpful in life to practice this skill of like actually researching because you're interested and creating arguments because you're interested, and yeah, it just helps to lead to more well-rounded children if they're intrinsically motivated.
I mean, it also leads to a higher success in learning. I mean, all studies that I've looked at home basically said that the more passionate you are about a subject, the more easier it is to learn that
Sure.
subject, and the
Yeah.
better you score in any tests or grading or whatever.
Yeah.
But the grading system kind of forces you to learn a lot of stuff that you're not passionate in, and you're not going to be good in that. And I think a huge problem in school, and as well as here in our education, is that people can't really pick and choose what they want to do, but they're on this like very narrow path of, you have 5 hours of German this week, don't care about that at all. You have 3 hours of math this week, don't understand it,
Haven't
can't
understood
do it,
since years.
haven't understood it. Then you have 3 hours of French, can't speak a single word, and you have to learn all the stuff, do all the homework, do all the stuff for that. But maybe you're a prodigy in something like music or sciences like
Yeah.
physics, or I mean, if you're bad at math, you're probably not good at
Well, I
physics.
totally
But
get what you're saying.
you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying, that
Your true talent isn't really
Yeah.
encouraged in school. You're just everybody tries to fit you into like the same shaped box,
yeah,
and they
They-
don't really encourage fitting you bigger boxes that have the same shape as you.
They say this is like general knowledge. They say like you're doing so little in school that this is the baseline of general knowledge. But especially for this type of school that we are trained for, I think the latest at like grade 9 or 10, that's enough general knowledge. Like probably the students have more general knowledge about subjects than many adults.
yeah, would agree.
Yeah.
But probably because education was not that great back then,
Right.
and
Yeah,
because a lot of people
exactly,
forget.
Yeah.
It's like the metaphor. You can't teach an ape on how to swim or something like that, or you can't teach a fish on how to climb.
Yeah,
That's-
it's
that-
like
that's
the
basically
tree,
it.
right?
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
like the
that's
7
the
different
regular
animals
tree.
also trying to
Yeah,
climb, and
yeah.
only
Yeah.
the monkey does it, and everybody else fails. That's literally our school system, you know.
Mm.
And once people fail, they like fail the school system. They go to a lower system or so, like the Realschule in Germany. I feel like that.
I did
Straight
that,
away?
actually.
Well, yeah, then maybe you can speak about it more. But in my head, I
Mm.
feel like that would straight away change the mentality a bit, and add like this level of, I don't know, of failure to it a bit, which kind of like influences the students to, like, it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Because you think you're stupid, because they've put you in a box where you're not
Mm.
Yeah.
really like
Lower
set
your-
up
Yeah.
to succeed.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's basically what happened to me, I would say.
Wow.
So I went to gymnasium.
Mm-hmm.
I went there for 2.5 years, and my grades started to get like worse a little bit. Like, it wasn't that bad, but I had like 2 4s or 3 4s, and then I felt like, okay, yeah, maybe that's just not for me, or maybe I just don't get it, or I'm not good enough. So I went down to Realschule, and I had also like mostly 3s.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in the end, it turned out it was just that I wasn't motivated or interested.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came back later and redid like my Abitur, my A levels,
Yeah.
and then I did really well actually at that
Wow.
school.
Yeah.
So I felt this motivation. I wanted to do well and to learn about the stuff, and then I had like 1 point something all the
Yeah.
time.
Nice.
So then I had really good grades actually when I was motivated. So I'm not sure if that was just an age thing or what happened to me, but something changed. So the intrinsic motivation changed everything, and it turned out I wasn't that stupid after all. So
Incredible.
that's yeah. So that's very interesting. But maybe I was just slow in my development. I don't know what happens. So it's very interesting.
This is another big aspect, though, isn't it? That our school system kind of expects everybody to be finished by the same age, whereas this just simply isn't the case. My brother, he's repeated 2 years now, and in the beginning, everybody who knew him and he himself basically thought he wasn't going to do well in school. Now, with like these years to mature personally, I don't know, or like just become more self-secure in his knowledge and intelligence, he is doing incredibly. He's getting 15 points every test in physics.
Nice,
and
yeah.
I think he's not like a singular case in this. Like you
Right,
yourself as
right.
well. Some people just need more time, some people need less time. We shouldn't just set a certain age for a certain skill and have everybody try to do it.
And you, and others and yourself, you always judge yourself based on the grades.
Yes.
Like I always had like 4 or worse in math, and then when I came back, I also always had 15 points. And
Mhm.
turned out I love math actually, and I understand it very well. But everybody and also the teachers always gave me this feeling that I'm stupid and I just don't get it. And I myself thought, oh my god, math, that's going to be the worst part going back to school. I hope I can somehow get through, and it turned out I actually love the subject. That's
Yeah.
very interesting. And it wasn't even the teacher was still bad. Like our math teacher was very bad, but I had what do you call it? Like another teacher where you go in your free time and you pay them extra.
Tutor?
Extra tutoring, yeah, and she was amazing, and suddenly it clicked. Suddenly I
Yeah.
understood everything.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. To add on to that, with people having to mature to become better, I think that's also a big part of why women succeed more in school than boys or in
Okay,
education
yeah.
than today.
because
Because-
they mature.
Because they
Faster.
mature a bit faster, I think. It's definitely not the case for every woman and every boy. Yeah, but
Most of the time, I think it's.
I
quite
think it's
significant,
it's statistically relevant from what I've looked at.
I think it's actually quite a lot, isn't it? Like even a year or two,
Yeah.
they are ahead.
I think if we like teach year six, we're gonna see it incredibly in action. Yeah,
You're gonna see
the
the
women are
girls
gonna be
and the
taller,
boys.
and the boys are probably gonna be hitting themselves, and the girls are
Yeah.
gonna be sitting and having like normal conversations. The boys can be chasing, hitting
Yeah.
themselves.
I mean, you can see it in height very easily. Like women mostly stop growing at I think the age of 14, 15, 16. Like that's probably the age. And I mean, boys can grow up to the age of 18. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with the brain, it's gotta be quite similar.
I'm not really sure
not
how
sure.
how that works, but I think definitely it is
Not that
significant.
many years, sure, but I
Yeah.
think there's something there.
I think school is just too narrow. I think it would be better to make it more individualistic. I think
Yes.
letting people simply choose courses would help a lot,
Yes.
because then they can focus on what they're intrinsically motivated on. Not in 5th grade. You have to have some
No.
base level general education,
Right.
which probably sucks for a lot of people and they don't want to do it. But
So which grade would you say? After which grade you should?
9th grade,
Ninth, okay.
8th.
So and how many years after 8th or 9th grade should there be? Like,
Oh,
That's a big question.
like we tried another system and then we reverted it.
I
So-
think 13 years in total would be good. So like with elementary schools and then 9 more. I think G8 is horrible. I think G8 is horrible. I had G8. I was in a G8 class. And in my 10th year of school, so before my A levels, I had 43 school hours. then I had homework. Then I had study. I didn't do that, so I had a lot of
That's
free
more
time.
than
But
8 hours a day.
yeah,
Wow.
it was a lot. I had so much school. I had so much to do. If I actually did do all of that stuff and not
Yeah.
snake around like I am,
Uh-huh.
my friends didn't have that much free time. I'm gonna be honest. They maybe went to church on Sundays, but playing football or stuff like that was hard. It was hard.
I
And
think this is another point, if I can interrupt,
yeah,
where I'd really like to talk more about that. This free time and also this like extracurricular activities. This is not done at all in German schools. It's a bigger thing in American schools where the schools have a huge repertoire of sport teams and everybody kind of has to join a team. which I think
clubs,
is good.
extracurriculars. Yeah,
But we
Right.
shouldn't just keep it at sports. We should offer sport, music, art, science, debating clubs, all sorts of clubs. To
Right.
just like
And you could just make it that you have to pick one or two. Of
Yeah.
them,
Yes.
And everybody would find something that they're interested
drama
in.
clubs. This would be incredible.
yeah. But now playing devil's advocate, you also have to have people who do these clubs, and it's probably going to be
That's where we
teachers,
need
and they
higher
have
taxes.
to and they have to be paid. But you would need more teachers. It's not the problem that they're not really getting paid. It's that we don't have enough.
It's the same with
And-
G8 and G9.
Yeah.
G9,
It's the
You need
same
more
argument
teachers,
with
more
with
hours.
G8 and G9. G8 absolutely sucks. I will say it sucks. It's too much. It's too cramped. They should have one more year, definitely. But what do? Suddenly you have one class more in every school. like not even one class, but one whole school year,
Yeah.
which could be like
Right.
3 to 5 classes,
Uh-huh.
depending on the size of the school. And now you have to get teachers for that. Then for the club activities, you would also need to get teachers, and
Maybe even people from the outside. Because
Maybe
it's so
even people from
specialized
the
they
outside.
Can't even do it.
I bloody hope so. I don't want a normal teacher.
yeah,
I think this would be really important that school kids don't just get in contact with like academic teachers. I think they should get in contact with. We could have a building, a carving club, you know, with a carpenter. You could have a
Yeah.
a drama club with a person who works in the theatre. This, and I think meeting people from different areas of life and actually seeing that you don't just need an academic education, which is kind of what the theory is in Germany now, that everybody needs an Abitur, everybody needs to study, which is why we're so struggling with like the handy jobs. We don't have enough of those at all.
Right.
People
right.
who work. Yeah.
but I don't know. I think the problem with the trades is not exactly the training. I think that just the work conditions are not that great. I think that's another problem in itself.
That's kind of always the point. Like it's the same with the healthcare care workers. They say like, oh, why does nobody want to do that? I mean, it's simple. You just have to make conditions better and pay them more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Then it's not that people don't want to do it. They say, oh, the young people, they don't want to work. They don't want to do that kind of job. Yes, they will if you pay them more.
yeah, but
There will always be someone who does it then.
but taking that argument towards the teacher problem, the teacher shortage problem, like, do you think more money would solve that?
That's where the other point is the money and the working conditions. So if there were more teachers and less or fewer hours, then it would be more attractive, I think. I mean, you hear all these negative things in school from the teachers themselves and from other adults. And then while studying, there are teachers, they came to university to teach us something, and they would tell us how bad it is to be a teacher. Like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
So-
it's actually funny. I think this is one thing that is very specific towards the teaching profession, is that nearly everybody I talk to and tell that I'm a teacher says back to me, oh, I could never do that. And I think this sort of negative energy and way of thinking towards teachers is kind of unique.
I think there are only two attitudes.
I mean,
They either say it's too hard, I could never do it, or
Oh,
they
it's
say,
no
you're
work
not-
at
you're
all.
not- You're not gonna work anyway.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Or you have so much vacation, nice.
Yeah.
You can relax for like 6 weeks.
That's
No,
good.
I can't.
Yeah.
Actually, in the beginning, I will be fired for 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty tough. isn't it?
Yeah.
I won't even
Yeah.
have a job, but I would still have to work and be prepared for when I come back.
That's ridiculous.
yeah, I mean, stuff like that.
Right.
That's completely ridiculous.
That's
I mean,
one of the conditions that are so bad
Yeah.
because people don't want it, or reason why people don't want to start.
I mean, 1/4 of teachers experience burnout symptoms. I mean, one quarter.
1/4 is
1/4. I mean, I've cherry
only
picked.
4 people.
Yeah, I cherry picked that stat a bit. It's burnout symptoms, which means a lot of stress, a lot of this. And actual burnout is probably like 7%. But that's still a lot higher than any other job. It's the job with the highest burnout rate.
And I've got another stat as well. The amount of people experiencing a burnout has almost doubled in the last 20 years, which is ridiculous. And I think this should be addressed by the government. They shouldn't just make it more unattractive to become a teacher. They should make it more attractive.
But could I give a nice suggestion here?
Please.
So I will start with a bit of a backstory. So just so you know, more than 40% in Baden-Württemberg of teachers work part-time. And the way
40%.
above 40%, I think the average in Germany was around 43%, and in Baden-Württemberg it's like 47 or 49. Yeah, women more so than men. I think men are only like 25%,
Okay, they
probably
don't think-
mostly about childcare and care for relatives. Yeah, and what do you think that we have all these people who could work more, and the current
Can they really, you know?
I mean-
That's probably often the reason why they only work.
Yeah,
part-time.
but our government thinks otherwise. So the way it used to be is that you can basically request part time because of any reason. and you will get it.
Mhm.
That's the way it's currently.
Sure.
But in 2025, that's going to be changed. If you don't have any children or other relatives that you have to take care of, like your like a grandma or something who's like really needs to be taken care of, you can only go down to a minimum of 75%.
That's
You
ridiculous.
can't go
Right.
50% part time anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is that the solution? Because I think you will get like
More
how-
unhappy teachers.
yeah, how many people does this really affect? You will have a few more teachers that work a few more hours, but how many people will say, well, now that I can't go down to 50% anymore, I can't do the job. It's
Yeah.
too much.
And there will also be some teachers that will have worse lessons.
Yeah,
So I think
Oh,
you
yeah.
can definitely prepare better lessons if you only work 50%.
Absolutely.
Fewer hours
Yes.
would make for better hours.
Yes.
You know.
And I think the problem is what Simon just talked about was kind of like a short-term solution
Yeah.
to the problem. What you're talking about is more like a long-term solution where we actually try to better the education, you know? We don't just try to put teachers in a
Yeah.
classroom, we try to get them to teach well.
But yeah, because as he said, they will get rid of this, and then a lot of teachers will come in, and it will look nice. But then after some time, people will stop. People will feel like they can't handle it. It's too much,
Yeah.
and then they will switch professions. So you will have the same problem again.
Yeah.
I think.
You'll have an even bigger problem because less and less people will want to become teachers.
when the benefits get worse and worse
Yeah.
and worse. I
And
mean,
it's not the only one. The sabbatical year is also being restricted. You used to be able to kind of like freely define how many years you want to work and how many years you want to take off. So there was like a 3-year plan, a 4-year plan, and a 5-year plan, maybe even longer. But now they've made it so that you can the smallest plan you can have is a 5-year plan, which basically means you need to work more. And it's another one of those examples where they take away from the benefits and the like few luxuries that you get as a teacher.
but you don't really get anything in return.
No.
The classes keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
You have to work even more.
More challenging people with like bad German that you have
Yeah,
to take care of.
that's another
It's
point.
just difficult.
And I think I don't really have any statistic to back it up, but I would assume that teaching nowadays is a little bit more difficult than it used to be, because there's more thought put into the lessons. I think this whole like planning of the didactics and all of that, I think that just emerged like maybe in the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
And before that, it was I would assume it was easier. Because you had these teachers who just stand in front and teach for 40
It
minutes.
was a lecture.
It was a lecture. And I think a lecture is way easier to prepare than an actual lesson with group activity and like all these different worksheets and another activity.
And you have to think about so many things that
Circle.
can go wrong
Right.
and have.
And
have to
additionally,
be
maybe
prepared
like
for that.
cultural things
Yeah.
you have to keep in mind. So I think it has become more complex.
Yeah, authority has also changed a lot in the last like centuries because back then you used to be the authority violence.
Yeah, you just have
and
your stick and
punishment.
just if someone like doesn't shut up, get one on
Yeah.
your fingers.
And nowadays
and then
you
they
need to be like
shut up.
more, much more. It's more difficult to get an authority without using any types of violence.
Yeah.
Which takes
I
more
think-
time.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. How did Hochbrook define it in this paper? Like Systemautorität, like authority given by the government. That's basically what teachers have.
Yeah.
Because the government
Right.
says, yeah, well, they're Beamte, they have authority over you, and that's given to them by the state. But that really doesn't mean anything in front of a class. If the students don't respect the teacher, I mean,
Well, you
does
will-
he really have that much authority? Of course, he's above them in some level or another, but
I mean, you always have to hope that they respect you, and you need to know what are your limits. What can you actually do to enforce that respect?
yeah.
Like, what can you do to make them listen to you? If
Yeah.
you came in the class and they just would like run around and scream, and you yell at them, stop, and they don't do it, what do you actually do?
You need something up your sleeve.
Yeah, you need to do. You
Yeah.
need to have like some pressure.
Yeah.
You know?
I
Yeah.
agree. I actually think you need to kind of beforehand think of like a grading set of punishments
Yeah,
that aren't
yeah.
violent, but of course okay, stop. If they don't stop when you say stop, or I'll do something. If they still don't stop, you're gonna say, "Then I'm gonna call your mum," whatever. You've got to keep.
Yeah,
You've got to have the progression.
yeah,
Otherwise, they reach the top and they're not stopping.
Yeah, but I think this whole system of punishing doesn't really work that much because people are getting punished and they're becoming repeat offenders. No one gets to do one extra homework and then suddenly stops being a nuisance in your class.
Yeah.
So,
I think it would be more important to
so you prefer positive conditioning.
yeah
Instead they get a treat when they do it
something
nice.
like that.
Not the stick, but the treat.
I mean, we've talked about that in the seminar, I think, where it's kind of expected of you to be this ideal Lehrerpersönlichkeit that simply has the charisma and authority naturally. That's what's expected of you. But I don't think that's something a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And I think what's important in that is that you try to communicate with the students respectfully and try to get them to understand why what you're doing is important. And I think if you're really trying to act in their own best interest, I mean, if you're not just a teacher who's trying to use his authority to be authoritative and feel better about himself, which a lot of teachers did at my school.
True.
I mean, a lot of teachers are just
like to feel
assholes to
superior.
be an asshole. Yeah, there's not really much didactic or teaching motivation behind that.
I never really understood how it would make them feel better if I were a teacher that's like 40 or 50 years old and I make myself feel superior to students. Like, yeah, congrats.
I don't need to. I
never
know I'm
understood-
superior.
yeah,
Why would I need to do
And I
that?
never understood how that makes them feel good anyway, because they're kids. Of course you're superior. It's like, but what does it matter? You know, that's not the point. You're not there for them.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to
You're not there
compare
for
yourself.
Yeah, and you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for them.
I think this is an interesting topic, and I'm going to try and switch the conversation here because this is one of the ideas that is picked up in the Montessori way of thinking, that the teacher is in the class to help the students learn. The teacher isn't in the class to teach and just to like spill out knowledge, but he's there to help them gain intrinsic motivation, understand concepts, to aid them. And I think Montessori has a really good concept here because that truly leads to more intrinsic motivation. I think the idea of the Montessori school is that you can only have real interest if you are free. So if you just have to like feign interest and write down what's on the board, you don't have any freedom at all. Whereas if you can choose a topic that you're interested in and then decide to do more research and do a presentation about it, do a podcast about it, that actually leads to like a probably a longer lasting learning curve.
I think the topics I know most about and I learned most about and studied for the longest period of time in my free time are not the topics that were taught in school.
Yeah.
So I was interested in something and there would be no problem for me to like sit down for 3 or 4 hours and just look up stuff and figure stuff out and I don't know, watch a video there or tutorial there and then try to figure it out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so much more rewarding because I felt that I actually learned something I wanted to know.
Yeah. Imagine that could be school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the problem again with the individualistic approach. There will always be topics that you don't want to know about.
But you have to.
Have to.
It's
and
important.
Maybe they are even important to you.
Yeah.
Or they are important to know, but you're not interested, you know.
So I agree with the first premise of Montessori schools being teacher being included into the class, not like this hierarchical structure, but more of like trying to make the students better. I think that's what every teacher should want to do. I don't know why some teachers want their students to fail. I simply don't get that. Why would you? Why are some teachers bragging about? Oh, my exam was so hard.
It's so difficult.
It's so.
Oh, you stupid little twats.
I mean,
not gonna make it.
Why would you do that? I simply don't get the motivation for that. I want them to learn something, to be better people at the end of my course. And
I think that's a superiority complex again.
yeah.
They feel like they worked hard or they know it so much better. They want you to have it as difficult as they did.
Yeah, I think punching down is always so easy, and it's always
It is.
it's always so meaningless. I don't get why people do it. But I don't know if I agree with the second part. I think it's important to,
The true interest.
yeah, the true interest
becomes
stuff,
free.
because in Montessori it's like you don't really have lesson plans. That's how I understood it. So
Yeah, that's
you
how I
have like
understand it.
general topics that you're supposed to know by the end of this period, but what you really do and research and whatever you can do on your own. And I think
I think it can be nice, but it wouldn't work for
No,
everybody.
I
It wouldn't have worked for me as a kid, for sure.
I
was
was
just-
not disciplined. I was not a disciplined
But
kid.
that's the thing, isn't it?
You think
don't
you
need-
learn it because of
I
that?
think that we've been indoctrinated in this way. I don't think. Yeah, this is literally the evidence of the indoctrination. You know, you only associate learning something with the need to perform, kind of with like the discipline. But that's not true. If you think back, there, like at least in my life, there are a lot of moments where I learned something without any need for a result at all. I just was interested in it.
Right, and if I think this was still true in kindergarten. In kindergarten, I felt that way, and then in Grundschule, preschool, I also felt that way, and I did very well in preschool. I even did like stuff from next class because I was so interested. I wanted to know more, and I don't know, something happened from 4th to 5th grade where this just vanished.
Yeah,
5th grade, I started doing poorly.
yeah.
And I felt, oh my god, my grades are getting worse. I'm not doing well. And then it was all about the grades.
And let's be honest, you were lucky. Like, I feel like in your situation, from what I know, it could have well been that you noticed you were doing badly in grade 5, then you went to Realschule, then you kind of gave up academia in general, and then
Yeah, I
you,
was
you're-
definitely
you
lucky.
never had this option of having an academic
Right.
lifestyle ever again.
And for my whole life, I probably would have thought, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I can't do
Whereas that simply wasn't
Mm.
true.
it. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's hard. I think there's some kind of topics that you have to know, especially in sciences. You have to go through every basic thing to be able to understand
Yes,
the
please.
next
We
one.
can understand we can all see in society that this is very necessary. We need more scientific understanding.
I mean, when people start question everything, and through the rise of the internet, they can tell everything and say everything without any facts to back it up. I think you need to have some kind of scientific basic understanding to be able to discern what is true and what is
Yeah.
not.
Oh, okay, yeah. But the thing of just questioning everything and saying wrong things and have others prove you wrong, that's also science. Yeah, that's also kind of true.
No,
You
but
form
the-
a hypothesis, and then, I mean, you are usually the one that has to disprove it. And on
Yeah.
the internet, the people just spew it out, and someone else has to disprove
Yeah.
them, and they don't.
And
believe
an
it anyway.
hypothesis should always be supported by something, and that's not often the case.
Yes.
I
I
think
mean, yeah, okay, but what's the hypothesis
Or a
of
claim.
the Earth is flat.
what's the hypothesis of God or religion? Then they say the proof is the Bible. Yeah, but you wrote that shit.
No, I agree completely. The point with religion, it's
Right.
basically the same. Religion for me is not that different from conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and the burden of proof lies on the person who's
Claims.
proposed or claims,
Yeah.
proposed the theory or the hypothesis. But they want to say, yeah, well, but you can't disprove it. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, but
so it's not
a lot of people think
Yeah.
that's how it works. And
right. So what I would love in school is not only the scientific subjects like biology, physics, and math and chemistry, but more so the scientific way of thinking.
yes,
That's more important than all the chemistry and biology knowledge, that they have this way of thinking after school.
Analytical.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Analytical and having proof and what actually is in correlation to one another. And they always say, oh, okay, this happened because of that. Yeah, well, no, you can't say that. You can't say for sure that this is the reason for that.
Yeah.
Is there causality? Can you prove it?
yeah, you have to look at this, that, and that, and you have to rule out other possibilities to become closer to your objective truth. And I think
Mm.
that's important to really teach that to kids as a science
Right.
teacher, as all science teachers should do that.
And I think it's way more difficult in like these cultural aspects than it is in the sciences, because there are so many factors. Like, how did this cultural problem arise? What is the reason for that? There's not just one simple reason.
Yeah.
Because then one side, and you can get into politics as well, the right side will tell you, well, this is the reason, obviously, and the left side will tell you, well, this is the reason, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you need this. You need a way of thinking to cope in our modern world because there's so many voices. There's so many voices.
And everybody knows it for sure. Everybody's certain that their way is true.
I agree. But to get back to what I think you said, I'm a huge fan of secularization. So the Trennung of staatliche Sachen and Kirche. And I think this should also be the case in schools. I do not understand why in the year 2024 we still have religious education in schools. I think religion, everybody can do it for themselves. Why is it being taught in schools? I think ethics is a good subject that has valid
I really enjoyed
points.
that. Yeah.
Yes, and is very important in school. One of the few good subjects. Religion, not.
No, that's
especially because you can't offer a religious class for everybody for their different religions. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, so I had a religious course throughout my whole school year because I went to a Christian private school. Yeah, they didn't have ethics.
Private school.
little flex. And I'm gonna say, I didn't really care that much about it, but that course was not really teaching anything relevant. I mean, we were reading passages of the Bible. We were talking about Christianity and...
Right. I mean, I had religion as a course in Realschule till the end. And I'm pretty certain when I did that, there was no ethics in Realschule. I couldn't choose that.
Yeah, that's so bad.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if there was or how long this has been a thing. But there also has to be a teacher for it, you know. So you have to study
philosophy.
Ethics or philosophy.
Philosophy
you
have
to
to
teach
study.
for religion as well.
Since it's not the pastor anymore, like it used to be. Like, and that's not that long ago. My parents had the pastor.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about more is the Waldorf school system. Because as we mentioned earlier, I think having these like extracurricular activities, be it sport, arts, music, just interests like building stuff or talking.
Yeah, I think that's like their main point, right? Like it's the creative side.
Yes.
That many people feel like is lost in school. The creativity, the teaching is
going outside in nature.
Like the lessons are totally devoid of creativity because you have to learn. You have to learn these things, and you have to maybe think about it a little bit to solve another question or another problem. Like that, but that's the maximum that you get. Whereas creativity from the individual, from the student.
Yeah. What you get in school as a school kid is you get a big bowl of bad-looking soup, and you get told eat this, and you have to eat it, and it's horrible. I think at the Waldorf school they actually have a few good approaches. So one thing they do is they have these Jahresarbeiten, which is perfect for intrinsic motivation because you can be utterly free in your choice, and then you choose a topic. You research that topic, you create something according to that topic, like we're creating a podcast right now, and then you perform it to the school and show it off to the others, so you get the reward for putting in the effort, and I think it's magnificent.
It's kind of similar to the Montessori concept, right? Like what if a student just doesn't do anything? Well, apparently you don't have any authority or not that much, so it doesn't work for everybody, I think.
It's a problem. It doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
I think, but it also doesn't work for everybody in the normal schools.
Sure,
I think
that's the thing.
The problem here is that teaching well is difficult. Getting people motivated is difficult, and I think
mostly because you have this plan. You have this master plan of topics and interests that they should have, that not everybody has.
Yeah.
But you kind of also have to formulate some outline of what they should know in the end.
I think they do, especially at Waldorf schools and also at Montessori schools. I don't think either of them are completely free. But in both schools, I think grades are like introduced in year 8, so they're kind of like slowly closing the gap to normal schools at some point. But I guess in younger years, they're just letting the kids have a more playful approach.
I think that's great, but then we have this time aspect again. I think student kids need this time, and they also need a lot of free time. That's the reason why I kind of understand how you have 40 hours in school. I think it's very important for kids to have free time, so they can pursue their interests that they actually have on the one side, and also what is kind of like underestimated or forgot about the older you get is that you need a lot of time to think about yourself. You're developing. Everything confuses you. At least everything confused me as a teenager or a kid, and I started wondering or thinking about so many things about the world. I just needed time to cope with all of that.
Yeah, you have girls on your mind, friends. What are you going to do after school?
Politics, sometimes.
Politics, what's going on in the world? What's going on with how did this all happen? How did we come to be?
Why is my family so crazy?
Why is my family?
Yeah. Everybody has different questions, I guess.
Everybody has a lot on their mind, I think.
Yeah, but we all have like so much going on, and I think this is a problem with teaching. Teaching kind of prepares us for the capitalistic society, and that it wants us to be productive. There's no focus at all, really, in the school system on creating well-rounded, good human beings. I think this is completely lacking.
So what part of well-rounded?
I'm not sure if I would agree.
Okay, I miss kind of like, I think the clubs would be a good starting point to create people who are interested in different things, have an ausgewogener Lebensstil, maybe do some sport, some Klavier to get those aspects in their brain working. I think there should be more care for the psychological problems of kids who need it, because mental health is not a big topic in like the classroom. Really.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Like, especially with our society that has become more aware about these psychological problems, and it appears that every other person has some kind of trauma or problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
One
understand
in
why
seven.
there's no. Okay.
What?
Okay, 1 in 7.
1 in 7, around 14% of adolescents have some kind of psychic.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's probably
problem.
just diagnosed. How many people don't go anywhere.
I'm not really sure about the study. I didn't look at the mythology.
Well, I would like to have some training in psychology as future teachers, but also in school. I think psychology is a fascinating topic. Although I still believe that it's actually just biology in disguise, and they don't really get it. But
as you said earlier, biology is just chemistry.
So psychology is one above.
Yeah.
So there's biology and psychology. I think is one above, and they think they can explain everything by behavior, but it's actually just biological processes gone wrong in the brain. But but
this is a fact, kind of, isn't it?
But
hopefully for biologists it is. Psychologists would probably disagree, some of them. But anyway, I would like to have some training in school. I think it's interesting for students because maybe they think, I'm kind of weird. Like students think, I'm kind of weird. Why am I like this? I don't know. Maybe it's just a me problem, and I better not talk about it. So I'm the outliner in the class. But actually, maybe it's just a diagnosis that they're missing, and it would explain so much about them. It could help them very much.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have undiagnosed ADHD, something like that at least. I mean, I know at least one friend who definitely has ADHD, 100% sure, but he's not diagnosed, and he's weird. but
sure,
but
many disorders are seen as a spectrum now. Anyway, so like maybe someone is very low on the ADHD or autistic spectrum, so they think, I'm not gonna. Why should I go somewhere? But it makes their life a little bit different. So it would be interesting for them to learn about the disorder in general. No.
I'm interested though, Simon. You disagreed with me saying that the school system doesn't focus primarily on making us kind of fit for capitalism and puts low focus on making us like good, well-rounded human beings.
No, you said it was not adequate or something, that it does not make us well-rounded beings. I think that I agree with the first point, that the main purpose of school is to basically prepare us for the future world, which is capitalistic, which is we work for someone else probably and give them something value, and they're happy about it. And we can have all these different kinds of basic skills that are needed in the workforce, and that's the overall purpose of school. But I think German school has done an okay job with doing general knowledge and trying to shape you into a good person. I think a lot of the values that it teaches, I think, especially in my English subject courses that I've had in school, I've learned a lot about the world and what's right and wrong and morals and stuff like that. And throughout discussion and social interaction with other students and stuff like that, I think I've become pretty well rounded, and I think a lot of my former student friends have become pretty well rounded humans, and I think in that respect, I don't think the school fails completely.
Okay,
I think
I agree.
I think the problem with school is that it is very much individualistic. There's not a lot of
Yes,
focus on
yes.
working as a group or as a team, but
And even if you do group work, in the end, it's you also get your grade.
yeah.
You want your grade to be
But
good,
it-
to be good.
Yeah, but it depends on the teacher. I don't know. I think a lot of teachers encouraged a lot of group or at least partner work, which I really enjoyed because
Sure,
it's just nice having to explain stuff to another person if you don't understand something. Maybe he can explain it to you. And working in pairs is just, I think working in pairs is generally just a great thing. Every teacher should do that more.
Yeah.
I think working alone is, it's not that productive. I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's necessary, but whatever. But like working as a huge group dynamic, as a whole class or something like that never happens.
I also think this goes hand in hand with what you said, that we should have a more age fluent school system. I think this would help tremendously in on the societal level, that we learn from a young age that we are kind of here to help others as well, and that we pull the unskilled ones along with us. The skilled people learn to give. It just leads to a strong sense of community that, in my eyes, especially with the reduction of religion in our society, is kind of missing. And I think the school could compensate.
Connected like that. But I definitely agree that we are shaped to be individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not good for our society.
It's not good, but I mean, if you want to bring out the conspiracy theories again, maybe it's deliberate. It's the classical divide and conquer.
No,
Do you really want everybody to be like one dynamic group and accept,
work together and
Work
want
together.
the best for their neighbor and not for themselves, because
yeah, but
maybe then
that's not really I don't know, economic system and all the rest of it. I
Yeah.
don't think that that it works well. I mean, that's kind of communism.
Yeah,
So, isn't it? Like if everybody would just agree and drag along the weak ones and everybody's equal, that's communism.
so at least communism or I think it's at least socialism. I'm not
So
sure.
socialism,
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe that.
could also be anarchist, but
Okay, well.
but yeah.
So yeah, does everybody want that?
No, definitely not. But I think it would be better for society. I think it would be healthier.
A lot of things would be better for society and healthier.
So why should we do them?
But we are not the ones who decide.
But why should we want them to be done?
Well, we want them to be done, but there are
Okay, then I
there are
understand.
parties of interest that don't want it. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
conspiracy theory at all. There are
I
definitely powerful parties that wouldn't want that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and they would try to suppress this change.
That's not a conspiracy.
I
I think
that's
that's
just
that's simply how the world works at the moment.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's just clear if you look at some countries and events that are happening.
but that's out of our control. I think it's still important to focus on what we can do better.
The Stoic is coming through.
Yeah, the Stoic is coming
You can
through.
only focus on what you can change.
What do you guys think about grading system as a whole? Because we've talked about Montessori and Waldorf, and they don't grade until 8th grade. Do you think we should abolish grades completely? Do you think we should limit the amount of grades we give? What is your opinion on that?
What I really liked about the Waldorf school was it's really difficult, but what they tried to do was not give you feedback in a number, but feedback to your kind of like whole being and your performance, which I think is really interesting, because once we leave school, nobody cares at all what type of grades we got in school. We just care about the humans we encounter and like the different qualities they have. So I think that's the focus in the Waldorf school in the lower years, that they give kind of like a comprehensive feedback to your person. Like they say, you concentrate well in certain environments, you know, kind of like going on all the skills and not the performance that you have, which I like.
I like that a lot. I think that's great. It's not just you. In school maybe a little bit less, but in university definitely you feel like you are. In most courses, you are a number.
Yeah.
You're
are.
just one of many, and in the end, your grade is part of the statistics for the course, and that's it. Like it's just maybe 1 or 2 courses before this one that we now had where I felt like an actual person, and the professor cares about me, knows my name.
That's nice.
knows
Very nice.
knows my
Yes.
name and actually maybe even cares a little bit how we're doing. That was basically a new feeling. So yeah.
Yeah, but how would you like solve that problem? Because the way the
Smaller
system is
classes, more time.
yeah, but
Really, more time for everything, and smaller classes to really care about the individual more.
yeah,
It always comes down to time really, and you can take more time if there are fewer people.
yeah.
And you have a 1 or 2 years more time with them.
Yeah, I think that would be great. But like going back to the grading, how would you solve that? I mean, yeah. I think that was a great point. I like that, but it was not exactly what I asked.
We can talk
But-
about the grades. So I'm not totally opposed to grades, but and it ties to the time aspect as well. I would like more smaller tests throughout the year. Like in university, it is a huge catastrophe really to have this big exam after 3 months. I feel in 3
Where you have
months.
5 different exams at the same time.
Yeah, and I feel every single one of them, at least in biology, takes me like realistically 2 to 3 times the amount of time I needed to prepare for my entire A levels. Is every single biology
Yeah.
exam.
That's a lot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really. So. And that's a time aspect. So if you want to have like every 2 or 3 weeks a small little test, so you really learn and rehearse the things that you learned. That would take time for the teacher. You have to design all these smaller tests and grade them. So they would need more time. And in school it's the same thing. You have like 2 or 3 Klassenarbeiten that they have to take. But I would like to have like every smaller tests, like every 2 or 3 weeks, so they actually learn the stuff that we currently discussed.
But still graded.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
And it's a more realistic average on how they actually perform. Like you can have a bad day, or there can be 2 or 3 questions that you just don't get on the exam. But if you have like 10 tests in half a year and 20 in total, then your average will be quite realistic in how good you actually did that school year.
Yeah.
I think that's just the kind of the mathematical background, like the statistics. If you have way more statistical points, then the average will be much more accurate than if you only have 2 or 3 points, and the average could be well off.
I also think it would probably really help in the learning process, because what students often adapt for these huge exams, which we have in biology, is they start like 4 weeks earlier, they just cram it all into their brains, puke it out on the exam, then forget everything within a month or 2.
Right, and
And-
in school as well.
In school as well. But your approach, having continuous small tests,
It forces you
would
to
force
learn.
you to learn for the long time,
Yeah,
which could be helpful.
it forces you to learn that aspect of the topic, and then the next one is going to be 2 weeks later, and you probably need what you learned before.
Yeah.
So I think it would be more for the long term. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes time,
It would take
and especially at university, it also takes motivation from the professors. Like not just time, but they would want to design all these tests and grade them, which takes time and motivation. And I think you can always tell if the professor likes the teaching part, or if he actually would just like to do his research and not teach any courses. As far as I understand it, they have to teach as well as so they can do their research.
Yeah, big time. Some professors are so
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
at teaching.
They
It's shocking.
they don't care. They don't care, and they don't know how to do it better.
How are they allowed to? I'm serious. How are such people allowed to teach at the highest level of teaching possible?
They're teaching teachers, but
They don't know how to
they
teach.
don't know it themselves.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but they're the authority on the subject because they know the most.
But
have
they
the
don't need to
subject-
know
the
that much to
subject
teach
matter.
the subject well.
I
Not necessarily,
in
but-
university, it's kind of the same thing again. Like you have to have so much more background knowledge to teach it.
Yes. Yeah.
But then there would have to be professors that only teach but don't do research, and who wants to do that?
Yeah, probably not a lot of
Kind
people.
of us, just not on that higher level.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want to be
I mean,
a professor.
if you
Not in biology, at least. That's
No.
a bit too
Yeah.
much.
I mean, you studied for so long, and now you're the expert, and you're actually at the very highest level. There are maybe like a handful of people that know more than you. And why
Mhm.
wouldn't you want to do research? Why just tell other people the basic stuff
Yeah.
again?
That's you. I see your point. Yeah.
No.
That actually connecting to why do we have such a shortage of math and physics teachers? I mean, they know
They
so
know,
much.
yeah.
Why would they not just go work in some kind of business, make 2,000 more a month, and probably have better working conditions?
Probably even a lot more. Like,
Probably.
I think even after a bachelor's in math, you can get jobs that give you like 10K.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure, and you can always, if you had math or physics, then you could always go into computer science very easily,
Mm-hmm.
because the whole computer language is just maths.
Mm.
So if you did, yeah, and that happens at schools a lot. At the school I was, most of the computer science teachers are just physicists, and there are not even there are no physics teachers. That's why I say physicists.
Yeah.
They are not teachers in either of the subjects.
Yeah, this is another band-aid for a situation that isn't a good long-term band-aid, because getting just one teacher in the classroom who isn't good at teaching isn't a good solution. And I guess these Quereinsteiger oftentimes are not trained in teaching properly. I mean, neither are we, but they're trained even less.
You know,
I think
shit.
another difference is probably that we kind of assess the ability to teach when we decide to become a teacher. We like think, oh yeah, I could see myself as a teacher. These people probably not as much, and therefore they probably perform much worse in the classroom oftentimes, and that's not okay.
I'm not sure if I would definitely necessarily say that, because maybe some people just get very passionate about teaching people in a later age, but
Just
so far I've had pretty bad experiences with Quereinsteiger.
You
So-
have to look at the average again. I
Yeah,
think.
so my physics teacher, he was a physicist. I think he was a great and smart physicist. I think he made a lot of money. I think he invented a lot of cool stuff. Probably, yeah, I don't really know that much. He was a bit crazy. But
As they all are.
yeah, and he was very smart, but he could not teach at all. I mean, he was one of the teachers who bragged about his class being so hard.
Oh
And
my
he was
God, yeah,
he was so
okay.
happy when the average was a 4, when people were graded, and you had like 3 people doing well in each of his classes, maybe because they were smart and good at physics already.
Yeah.
But he did not care about the rest. He didn't make the lessons for the students. He made it for himself, so he could, I don't know, get money.
And you would
teach,
never get
chill.
they wouldn't get fired anyway.
Because you
there's
can't
no
get
one in-
another physics
Yeah, you can't
teacher.
replace them.
I mean, yeah, but I've looked at a stat, and I don't know if it's interesting to you guys, but half of the Quereinsteiger actually quit after the first few years, all
Really?
doing training.
Half of them.
Wow, that's
Half of
interesting.
them. That's a very high statistic.
But it's
So a lot of people.
similarly high to the people who quit after doing training after the Referendariat. You said
That's
that was a
1/3.
So,
That's ridiculous.
so you have to survive the first few years, and then it's okay.
Yeah,
So that's the
probably.
message here, I guess.
Yeah.
If you do it normally, you have to survive the first few years, and if you come from a
Yeah.
different angle.
Yeah, but I don't know if Quereinsteiger. Do you think it's a solution? I don't think it is, because these people don't work in teaching because they didn't want to be.
Yeah.
They didn't want to work in
I mean, as she
teaching.
said, it's a short-term solution for a bigger problem. They are unwilling to fix, really. So the problems of the pay and the better conditions, if if these two factors were completely right and everybody would be happy with them, then
We'd
I
have
don't
much
think
more
there
teachers.
wouldn't be a shortage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what actually are the things that the government could improve on? Because I think that's always very easy to say, yeah, they should improve working conditions.
Okay, yeah,
But if you actually look at it, then everything that improves working conditions mostly lowers working time, and that mostly increases the shortage. So it's hard.
I-
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just think that the root of the problem, as basically everything in the world, is money. You would need more money to pay teachers basically the same amount to do fewer hours. And if you have fewer hours, then you can make better lessons, and you can have smaller classrooms because you have more teachers. You can build more school buildings where you can put all these new classes in, and then you have a class of 15 in each room with one teacher or even an auxiliary
Mm-hmm.
or us as students, and I think that would improve everything. That would be
That
perfect.
sounds incredible.
But that's like probably 10 times the budget it is now.
Maybe no, I don't think 10 times. I think
No.
double.
And
Easy.
maybe we need double the budget.
To be honest,
Maybe we need that.
I think this is an important thought. I think our society has trained us to think certain ways about certain things, and I think we probably, as a society as a whole, have been trained to have not a huge expectation towards education. And I think if we change this expectation, we would be much more willing to pay much more money for a better education.
So you mean there would be more support from
Yes.
from
Yeah.
society?
If it was suggested now, we would have so much backlash. People wouldn't be happy. You know, they'd have to pay higher taxes. People without kids would be annoyed.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it would just be to, take money from somewhere else and put it into that system.
Yeah, but where do you take it from? Yeah,
I don't
that's
know. We
it's
are
take
always
it from the Bauern.
Well, but we kind of, made 100 billion for the military out of thin air.
yeah, and we could also just loosen the Schuldenbremse and print more money, but
yeah, I mean, that's the classic inflation trick. You just put another zero in the Excel.
yeah.
Ask the Federal Reserve, hey, can we have like $1 billion or $2 more? And that's just how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we might need to do that because a lot of stuff is just
Expensive.
expensive, and we've not been paying enough the last few years. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these infrastructure problems, I think. Yeah. Do you want to move on to the next point?
Yeah, we could. So we have two options. We could either talk about drama pedagogy or give our thoughts on defense against the dark arts.
Are we talking about mental health as well
We
again?
can.
Or?
I mentioned it earlier, but no,
Okay.
we can talk about
Yeah,
mental health in the classroom.
Because I
We
think
did,
we
right?
talked about it like shortly, but I
Mhm.
think we skipped over it
Okay, sure, yeah.
because we do you guys think if someone has a mental breakdown, what are we expected as a teacher to do? What is part of our job? Should we be on the lookout for students having mental problems? Should we help them? What is your guys' stance on this? What should we do?
It's difficult. I think it boils down to what are we trained to do.
Yeah, I don't think you can just expect people to just know it, like just to have this kind of sense for students' mental health problems. Like some people probably have, like if you already had like friends who have these kind of problems, then you maybe notice some signs, or maybe you're interested in the subject and you research like on your free time, and maybe you will be better equipped. But I would like to have that as part of my teacher training.
Yeah.
If I am supposed to help, and it's not even if I'm supposed to help, because I will want to help, but I don't have the tools to do so.
Mm-hmm.
That's even worse, I think.
Yeah.
Because everybody with a decent amount of empathy will want to help a student with mental health problems.
Yeah, you want them to be better,
Sure. Like not just academically, but
but
as
as
a
a
person,
person, yeah.
and for the physical and mental well-being. We'd want the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we need some tool for that. Just like we had first aid training for physical problems,
Yeah.
and a little bit of first aid training for mental health problems.
we need
maybe-
much more.
Yeah, maybe we can tie it into the course, like review or critique.
Yeah.
Like, it was so interesting to have these mental health first aid, but it was just one session.
and like half a
Like
session.
half a session.
Half a session, yeah. So it was interesting and it helped me, but it will not really change that much on how much I can help or do
No, yeah.
if that problem comes up. Yeah. So, yeah. So my intrinsic motivation has been like awakened.
Yeah.
I want to learn more, but give me something. You
Yeah,
know?
I think
That's what university should be about, right? Like not just tell you this is a topic and now research for yourself, but here, you know, I give you this and now you can research on your own.
maybe even school.
Maybe even school. But as students, I feel like it's so much more difficult.
With
school
kids.
Yeah,
Because they have a lot more going on.
they have more going on and interests that are nice for them personally don't really help them that much later in their life.
Maybe.
I disagree. Why would they help students more but school kids less?
I think because you are more developed and you know better what you really want and what you really need.
But
I think as when you're in school, you're a bit immature and it's hard to say that, but I'm not sure if you can really decide everything for yourself. At
Yeah.
some point, you should be able to, 9th grade, 10th grade, somewhere around that. But I think when you're 13, 14 years old,
but I think
it's hard.
these are exactly the years that really
Are
are
formative.
important in the development
Yeah.
of the child. So it's kind of you've got a devil's, you know.
Because I'm not teaching them to be independent, they won't be.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But kids can never be independent, you know. That's why they have parents to teach them about the world, because they can't be
Some kids
independent.
can be. I think kids in who suffer war zone trauma, they have to be. If your mum and dad die and you are alone in a war zone, you are independent entirely.
I mean,
you have to take
I
over
mean-
your life,
Yeah,
and they do.
you can survive and make it out, but they will have problems for the rest of their life. I would argue.
But
pretty sure.
So would everybody who endures that. I think kids probably can be more independent than we think.
I mean, you're.
I'm not sure. It's difficult
Well,
to say.
but the age thing is the question. Like I would always look to like nature as an example. Like at what
Mhm.
point do animals like abandon their kids and then they are actually independent? We never really do that in a healthy family, ever.
No.
I mean, you also don't really want to do that. that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who wants to say, okay, now you're 16, now you're on your own, never call me, don't come back.
Yeah.
Very
nice.
Okay, maybe nature isn't always the greatest, resource for.
I mean, if we look
For
at
that.
apes, do they ever abandon their children? I'm not sure. Some do, maybe, like orangutans, but I think like chimpanzees, I think they live in the same family groups for decades.
Do they really, or do they try to like get to another group? You know, so there's also no inbreeding and no mixing.
I believe some of them would also probably leave, but I don't think they would hate each other or anything like that. I think familiar bonds in ape culture are pretty important, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not an ape specialist by any means, but
Yeah.
yeah. But to go back on the mental health topic, I think it's hard to say that. I think it's very valid to say that we're not trained for it. We aren't.
No,
and
definitely not.
and that makes it hard to help, but we're definitely going to be faced with it someday. I mean, there is 100%, if we're going to become a teacher, there is 100% going to be a situation where a student in our class will have mental problems and we're probably
Yeah,
gonna notice it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Be
it happened in every class that I've been in. And I've been in a few classes now, or a few different schools. So
Yeah,
there were always like a couple of kids.
yeah, you have people cutting their wrists. What do you do? That's a hard topic. Do you talk to them about it?
It's difficult because I think the adequate response is it varies from every single person.
Yeah, it's
That
very
makes it
individual.
so difficult.
It's so difficult.
Yeah, but I think what we've learned with that Roger, so the first thing being react,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's important. Just go talk to them, just go find out what it is. If they don't want to talk, they don't have to. Don't
Yeah.
force them. Don't make it weird. Don't make it like a punishment or anything like that.
Or,
Just-
or force your help onto them.
Yeah, don't force your help. Just say, hey, I noticed if you got anything to talk about, if you need any help, tell me. I will be there to help
Yeah,
you.
don't make
And-
don't make them the outline outside. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But don't make them feel weird about it. Just tell them, hey, I've noticed, and if you want to talk about it, I'm here. If you want to talk to someone else,
yeah.
you can do that. But
I can help you get help.
yeah, I can help you get in touch with somebody if you need that. Yeah, just let me know, and I think I will leave it at that.
Yeah.
Even if it hurts, if they like continue, sometimes you can't.
If they don't want your help, you
Yeah.
can't help them. That I think it's
It's
as
a sad
simple as that.
truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think everybody should be on the lookout, and if you see these signs, you should react, because it's important for these people to know that somebody even cares.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
mean that's the main takeaway, and that
Yeah.
was already nice, I guess.
Yeah.
That we discussed that.
I think one of the big problems with like mental health first aid in the classroom is that you can react well and actually help the child, but people who aren't trained, which is normal teachers, can also react very badly and damage the child even further.
Yeah, if you scream at them, make them feel
If
worthless,
you embarrass
try
them
to
in the
confront
classroom,
them, embarrass them in front of other children.
so
There's
much.
so much stuff that has happened in my school, and the teachers do.
Yeah.
So this is why we need to be trained for this. And I think every single topic that was brought up in the Defense Against the Dark Arts course was just like a brief glimpse into like a whole new, like drama pedagogy was like opened up for like 3 hours, whereas people do like whole 3 years of pedagogy, and mental health people become psychologists. So we need so much more of this like knowledge.
I think there was a nice impulse.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested and I feel like I should know more about this, and I want to know more, but where do I get it from?
Yeah.
Right. But and then you spend like hours and hours on end on other courses where you feel like that was not necessary.
Yeah.
I was just here because I had to be
Analyzing Shakespeare.
analyzing Shakespeare for the
Yeah.
millionth time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in general, Defense Against the Dark Arts has been probably the most pivotal course in my student career so far.
Pivotal in what way?
In the way that it has, it's given me these glimpses of things I need to focus on and that weren't in my brain. Like before I had mental health in the classroom, I didn't.
You never
really-
considered
I never
that.
considered it. I really didn't. But
Yeah.
it's such a huge thing, and could have such a huge impact. Yeah.
I think the problem is this course was really designed for teachers, and for most of my time, like I switched subjects a couple of times, so I've been doing this for more than 4 years now at university, and most of the time I felt like I was just being trained as a biologist or as an English literature study whatever scholar. So I had to focus on the academics, and I didn't really have that much time to think about myself as a teacher later, because I was so caught up in all this academic knowledge that I need to acquire. So yeah, so the actual part of teaching and my job later was just like back in my mind somewhere, like, oh, how am I going to teach that? I can't really worry about that. I have to pass the exams. I have to get on, you know. And maybe I will learn about it in my masters. That's always my big hope, to be honest.
But the closer it gets,
The closer we get, the more I think maybe I have to learn on my own, I guess,
Yeah.
how to become a good teacher.
which is ridiculous, because that's the one thing we should learn in our studies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it has this like subordinate role kind of,
Yeah.
Very much, yeah.
and I think that's kind of weird. Like you have your 2 subjects, and of course you need to know a lot. But why is the other part? Why is it so small?
Even though that's the main part of your future job,
Yeah, because how you teach is so much more important than the
then
knowledge.
what you know.
Like, as you said, the professors that we had in school that were academically amazing probably, but they can't teach. I learned absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
My math teacher was also a university professor, and he of course he was kind of brilliant, and I'm sure he had papers published on end, but he could not teach. So a math teacher who probably only did his bachelor's or even less, and learned how to teach effectively, I think I would have learned a lot more.
Yeah.
So that part, I would like to see more importance placed onto it. Yeah.
I like that seminar a lot. I like this seminar a lot.
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, totally.
I agree with a lot of your points. I mean, I've always have teaching in the back of my mind. Always when I do other courses and stuff, I always think about, well, what does this, how does this benefit me in my future as a teacher? That's always what I try to focus on, because I'm not studying to study. I don't care. I want the certificate to be able to do my job later on.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing all this stuff. And this course, I really felt like I had a lot of input that really helped me. A lot of stuff that I've probably thought about before, like mental health in the classroom. That's always been a thing that I knew was going to happen at some point. I was going to have to deal with that at some point, because it's a common occurrence today.
Sure.
But stuff like authority as a teacher, how to be authoritative without, not really how to be authoritative, but how to be able to manage a class without being authoritative.
Like how to be an authority without being a dictator.
Yeah, something like that. Something like being on the same level. I think that was very interesting, and that helped me a lot. And I just felt like it was just generally nice having this course where you can actually talk about what you're passionate about and what you want to do,
Yeah.
and not have to talk about literature, linguistic, that I'm not really that interested in.
Right.
One thing I really loved about this course was that he taught by using the method.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
this is something, like if
Yeah.
we take Bildungswissenschaften,
Yeah.
the
You
first
were gonna
course we
say
had
that.
on teaching, it was horrible. It was taught in a horrible way, although it was telling us how to teach well. And this course was telling us how to teach well by teaching well. And that just really, it works on my brain. My brain's really receptive towards that. It's like, wow, I can feel it. It works. I'm motivated to do this podcast. I'm interested. So
Yeah, but I think at university it's even worse than the time aspect. Imagine doing every topic that we did in like nice group work and this activity, and not just someone standing in front, like, you know, telling you all the facts, and then do it at home for another 3 or 4 hours, and then maybe you get it. So imagine doing that at university, you'd need 10 years for your bachelor's.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do, as you said, it's very difficult to do good teaching. And it takes time. It takes a lot more time than the old
Than bad teaching.
than
Yeah.
bad teaching. Yeah.
That's a huge problem. I don't think we're going to get a solution to this right now, but
Maybe not even in our time
life.
as a
Yeah.
teacher.
Yeah. But I feel like that concept of resonance that we got in this course, that Hochbruck told us, like really resonating off each other and being like one whole group together, I think that really helped me a lot.
I'm still impressed how quickly that happened, especially
Yeah,
with
in
these-
our course.
Yeah, and with these drama or theater approaches, I've never been into any of that, or I've never done any of that. And I'm gonna be honest, in the beginning, I didn't care for this class at all, like for the people, like not the contents, but it's just, especially in English, it has become like a thing of mine, just to, okay, there are other students there, but I don't really care about them.
Yeah,
And
I don't
oftentimes
know 'em.
we disagree on so many things, but these couple of activities, even just the staring in the eye for 1 minute, this 1 minute changed my perception of the person next to me completely. We didn't talk, but I felt so much more empathy for that person, and I was so much more willing to interact with the group. It was so very interesting, a very new experience for me.
Yeah.
So I will maybe try and hope to incorporate some of that in class later, because that really felt very nice to me.
Imagine if somebody had told you of the brilliant benefits of staring into somebody's eyes in a lecture.
Sounds super
You
weird.
wouldn't have fucking cared.
No, but you do it once and you're like,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. Like, how does this happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about drama in education in general? So, especially when trying to learn language like English.
I mean,
I think I'm a big fan.
I know you're a big
I know,
fan.
we know you're a big fan.
I think you can really use drama as a tool to get kids So I read up on it a bit, and I think in kindergarten, kids love playing, and it's high intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
They just play, and by playing they learn. They have like a maths table, whatever.
I would
And I
argue kids don't stop loving to play after kindergarten.
No, exactly.
Especially boys always love to play. Like it's
Yeah.
just with video games. It's the same thing. We love to play,
Uh-huh.
and it's a play for. I mean, you also learn things and have to solve problems,
Mm-hmm.
and we do that for hours on end, and that's fun.
Yeah.
But why is learning other things in school so difficult?
I feel
Not
like
fun.
with drama you can keep the fun
Hmm.
whilst adding the academic component to it, and therefore with this like fun, the kids don't notice that they're actually learning
You do have
oftentimes,
to trick
which
them
is
into learning.
crazy.
Yeah.
Because I've felt it myself. You know, you forget that you're learning. You're learning how to build sentences in English, or
Right. Right.
using the correct phrasing if at some point, whatever. Learning vocabulary by having it like put throughout the room, and then you can like use your räumliches Vorstellungsvermögen
Yeah.
to remember it
I-
better.
I think the concept of gamification is very very underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if it's like useless information or useless tasks in the real world, if you play these games, there can be very complex things that you are actually doing, and you memorize so much stuff that is useful for the game. Obviously, not in the real world, but it could be. You know.
I mean, I
Maybe
think
you could design games in a way that they learn.
I think you get a lot of skills that actually translate into real life exercises.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at drama, for example, I've had the second time I had to do my OSP here in Freiburg. Now I'm gonna start with an anecdote. I had a bunch of fifth graders, half the class to myself, the other class was writing an exam, and we were looking at a story in the book about people at a harbor or something, I don't really know. And we did a stage play about that actually. So I actually did used some kind of drama methods, where they were supposed to play out the scenes but with their own spin on it. Yeah. And it was chaotic. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. But the people the students, they were so motivated. They had so much fun. They were really trying to put together something good, and that really created an atmosphere where these people, they are fifth graders. They don't speak great English. Their English was not good, but they weren't afraid to talk because it was a game. It was fun, and it just creates an atmosphere where it's okay to make mistakes, which is always important in your class. But through drama, I think you can kind of take these qualities that are very important for your lessons. Not being able to speak a lot, not being scared of speaking, working together with other people, using natural sentences, stuff like that, which is important to actually learn the language. And drama is just a good tool to do all that. I think you can do all that without using drama at all if you just plan a great lesson. But in some cases, it's just a good method to use, I think. That's my take on it.
Yes, but it's kind of the point with the other topics. I've never been in contact with drama pedagogy at all, and now I'm very interested. But where do I get more materials or another course? I need a whole course on this. You know, I feel like I need a whole course on
There is one.
There's a
really?
cultural course. We've done
Oh,
it.
you've done
It's
it.
incredible.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Part of the bachelor's, or when was
Yeah,
it?
it's part of the bachelor's. It's a cultural seminar called...
Culture seminar. Okay.
Just so you know, she's one of his undergraduates.
Yeah, Nadine.
Nadine Schlockermann.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
What's nice?
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's optional again.
It definitely
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it is
optional because
optional.
I didn't.
Yeah,
and I've done,
you can do American and British
Yeah.
cultural studies and
Yeah.
not do that. I think it was performative didactic.
performative language didactics.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know, but it was
Really
cool.
good.
It was interesting.
I also want to go back to the fact that drama could add this level to teaching that I personally miss. You don't miss as much, but I personally miss in school right now, where it teaches the students to become better,
Yeah.
more rounded people.
Right.
Like
It makes you
shows you
more
good posture,
yeah,
you're confident in
posture.
your speaking, your ability to convey
Right.
your thoughts.
And also play characters.
Yes,
And
which is
playing
important.
and playing characters, yeah, helps you to be the kind of person that you want to be yourself in front of other people. It makes you more open
Mm-hmm.
also, because you have to do things that are uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to do these exercises the first time we did it
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
class. Definitely was. They do something your partner has to replicate or tell them. You had to be creative and use language to describe what you want them to do,
Yeah.
or even do it yourself. And yeah, I mean, so many people have like anxiety or are shy, especially students, and I think it could open them up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you create the right environment for it. But
Right.
that's important when doing drama. Otherwise it doesn't work.
Okay.